De los jardines parecen de Disneyland. Maneja una troca vieja sin la licencia. No importa si fue taxista allá en su tierra natal. Es una carta para el tío Sam. Suelto por esas calles. Nunca se sabe cuándo nos va a tocar.
Agua, water for sale.
Los niños lloran a la salida.
Please welcome back. Come on.
No money. That's not enough. The price just went up.
Don't worry, I'll put you on credit. More work, twice as much for a few hours of pay.
Just be lucky you have a job, or you can join the army and fly a plane like me.
Or you can join Valdez in his teatro and say, "Ya nos cansamos."
Who are you?
El Teatro Campesino founded. Malcolm X assassinated. 1967, Reyes Tijerina, Tierra Maria, New Mexico, courthouse takeover. 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King assassinated. 1969, Courtney Gonzalez holds first Chicano Youth Conference. Plan de Santa Barbara, adopted at UC Santa Barbara. 1975, end of Vietnam War. 1986, Reaganomics bankrupts many small businesses. 1992, Rodney King verdicts and subsequent riots. 2002, Department of Homeland Security founded. 2006, immigration reform protests. 2008, first black president Barack Obama elected. 2013, Obama administration passes 2 million deportations. 2014.
I'm going to apply to the university.
Upward mobility is a myth, almost bigger than me, I say.
But they have financial aid, and it's a public university.
Go try.
No money? That's not enough. Sorry. Work study for you.
Tuition just keeps going up and up. It's the way it goes.
Work study for you, too.
Just be lucky you have a job, you know?
That's my boy. Go Bears!
Go Bears!
Go, Essen! Go Osos!
I'm here. I'm ready for school.
No.
But there's financial aid.
But your ABCs.
Well, A is for action, and B is for barrio, and C is for change.
Looks like Valdez is back, and this time with más fuerza.
A is for action, B is for barrio, C is for change. A is for action, B is for barrio, C is for change.
A is for action, B is for barrio, C is for change.
A is for action, B is for barrio, C is for change. A is for action, B is for barrio, C is for change. A is for action, B is for barrio, C is for change. A is for action, B is for barrio, C is for change. Estamos cansados, we're tired of the violence. Estamos cansados, we're tired of the violence. Estamos cansados, we're tired of the violence. Estamos cansados, we're tired of the violence.
Give it up for UC Teatro students at Cal. Yes. Woo! Studying the work of Luis Valdez for the whole semester. If you're interested in theater and social justice, please sign up. We're going to pass around clipboards. You can sign up and we will get in touch with you. Also, introduce yourself to one of these students in the reception that will take place in the lobby after the program tonight. Yes. At this time, 50 years ago, Luis Valdez was performing with the San Francisco Mime Troupe. He presented his first play, actually The Shrunken Head of Pancho Villa, at San Jose State. It was a journey that held the picket lines in 1965 when El Teatro Campesino was formed during the Delano grape strike. His company developed the actos and performed the poem by Jorge González, I Am Joaquin, in 1967. He wrote and directed Zoot Suit in 78, 79, which became a film in 81, and the first Chicano play to hit Broadway. Yeah, and not, yeah. Not long after, he directed the hit film La Bamba, The Cisco Kid, and many others. He was influenced by Mexican film star Cantinflas, Bertolt Brecht, Federico Garcia Lorca, and the fiestas and the ritos of Greater Mexico and Alta California, which we're on. He has another powerful influence in his life, the first Chicana who joined the teatro. She is a costume maker and collaborator on many creative projects. So I'd like to acknowledge in the audience his wife, Lupe Trujillo Valdez, who is with us here tonight. Lupe. Yesterday, Luis was sharing with students in Professor Carlos Muñoz's class on the Mayan concept of meñá. He described it as to believe, to create, to do, in love and in pain. The worker-creator is meñá. It's a vital energy from our communities, all of our communities, and crucial in defining the future of America. Luis Valdez meñá. I would now like to ask that the core organizers join me here on the stage. Lupe Gallegos Diaz. Laura Jimenez Olvera. Laura Perez. Celia Rodriguez. Patricia Baquedano Lopez. Michael Mansfield. Natalie Sanchez. And there are so many more. Look around you, see the faculty, your teachers, you know who they are. But this is what fuerza looks like. Comunidad. Gracias. Yes. So let's take a look around in the room. So I'm going to shout out here, Puente at Chabot College. Are you out there? Yeah. Santa Rosa College. Hayward, Contra Costa. Yeah. Chicano Latino Ethnic Studies. Casa Magdalena Mora. Yeah. English Lit in the libraries. Chicana Latina Student Development in the Barraza organizations. Class in the Center for Latino Policy Research. These are the organizations that have supported this event. We thank very much the Office of the Vice Provost of the Faculty that selected the nomination of Luis Valdez for this Regent's Lectureship Award. And thank you to everyone present and to those viewing online for your support of this historic occasion to honor the love and labor of Luis Valdez. And now I'm going to turn over the mic to one of the student and alum organizers of this event, a theater artist and community activist, Ms. Natalie Sanchez.
Woo! Is this water for taking? I'll hold it. Welcome, comunidad. Thank you for being here today. It is an honor to be present with you all. As author of Theater of the Oppressed, Augusto Boal said, "Theater can help us build our future rather than just waiting for it." As a wonderful performance of Teatro Lab showed us, and as Performance Colectiva and Teatro Project have strived to share, performance breaks the walls from our reality and the one we strive for. For if it is possible on stage, it is possible anywhere. I, as I know many of you, have been inspired by the legacy of El Teatro Campesino that has paved the way to empowerment, to envisioning a better world and enacting it. Actually, as many of you might have been part of or have seen, enacting it here on campus through several occasions. So I ask you today to think, what things can possibly break the fourth wall in our everyday lives? What breaks the fourth wall on systems of oppression, suppression, and violence? Happening right now on this campus, in Florida, in Ferguson, in Oakland, in Ayotzinapa, in mi querido Guerrero, Mexico, and over Latinoamerica, and even across the globe to Palestine. What disrupts the rhythm which keeps our heads down rather than looking around us? But walls we've built, separating us from one another. Indigenous people use theater and performance as a tool for survival, for community building, for healing, and for dialogue. But today it has been reduced to something of a luxury that only a few can afford. If we decide to remain in existence, we must use these tools, give it the respect, the attention, investment, and space that it deserves. No one will hear your story if you don't speak. We cannot create a movement without movement. You are proof of it now, in your decision to move and place yourself here in this room. But it doesn't have to end in this room. As I once heard, listen, learn, and move. And then repeat. Listen, learn, and then move. And now I have the great privilege of welcoming to the stage the first person who introduced me to Latino Chicana theater through Digging the Dirt, performed at Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble in Santa Ana, California. I was a young high schooler, starved of the arts, and perhaps she didn't know that I was going to be one of the kids who was given a free ticket would one day present her. Probably because she has touched so many lives, bringing the voice to the Latina experience through her powerful words, valuable and measurable work. Here to introduce our main speaker of the night, Chicana writer, feminist, activist, poet, and playwright, Cherríe Moraga.
Well, I guess it takes a village to bring Luis Valdez, huh? It's beautiful. I've written some notes to try to remember the things that I would like to say to Luis. It's kind of a personal, public conversation. And I feel when I walked in today, he said, "Oh, thank you for doing this, like it was an effort." It's an enormous honor, Luis. I'm just really, really grateful to be able to do this little part. The last time I heard Luis speak was at an honoring for Jorge Huerta. Many of you may know his work, and I don't know if they go from father to grandfather or to bisabuelo or to, I don't know what it is, but he's a wonderful, incredible founder in many ways also of Chicano theater as a contemporary, definitely, of Luis's, and a critic and his Chicano historian, Jorge Huerta. They were doing an honoring for him because he was leaving his post at San Diego, UC San Diego, after many, many years. And it was a beautiful honoring, but when Luis got up to speak, it reminded me of why he started this work and why all of those teatristas of Campesino started that work together. Because he got up and he was so pissed off. And he was talking about the desprecio that he was witnessing against inmigrantes, against Mexicanos, Centroamericanos. And he was shaking. He was so mad. And I said, "Oh, he's my brother. That's my brother." And I say that because we forget. And I know that if you can be doing this kind of work for so many years and still the first thing that comes out of your mouth is how pissed off you are. And what he said, which I remembered, was that he could never have imagined it to be this bad. And I felt a little less crazy in the world because that's exactly how I feel. And so I want to say, I think from there, what I'd like to begin is to really talk just a little bit about the formation of someone like Luis. He talks about the story of going to Cuba and meeting Che, casually meeting Che. And, as I was talking to Che. And then what in Cuba, and what Che said to him was go home and deal with those people there. Something to that effect. And that is when he returned, and I know I'm compressing histories incredibly, but he returned to help find El Teatro Campesino. He goes to Cesar and says, "We want to do this with you. We want to make theater with you, and we want to help make this strike, the UFW strike, happen." And that marriage is something, I have to say, in all my years of looking at art practice in relationship to political practice, I've never quite seen it as beautifully merged as that moment. And for me personally, it has been a great model of what it is to make art practice be political practice without compromise to either of the forms. So I want to say just a few things about kind of going through a couple of things that really impressed me about Luis's work, and I think I want to make sure I end on this sense of what I feel about him as a philosopher, as a public intellectual. I'm a writer. So when I look at the works that Campesino did in those early years, I know what it takes in terms of leadership. I know that those works came out of a collective. I know that they came out of those collective bodies. I know that they came out of men and women's bodies. I know that. I know that the Pachuco figure, La Muerte, all of that was Socorro. I know it was a woman's body. I know those things. And in knowing those things, I also know it requires incredible leadership and tenacity and bravado and courage to keep it together. And that was Luis's vision. He had a vision, and he was saying to people, come with me, come with me. And you're hated for it, and you're loved for it, and you just keep on going with your vision. So I get the sense always about Luis, and I don't know, we don't hang, you know? And not that we wouldn't hang, but, you know, it's never come up. You know, we see each other, you know, et cetera. But what I know about him to be true by virtue of his work is that he is someone who anticipates where we need to be politically. And, you know, I'm over 60, so I can say this now. And as old as we are, we still can anticipate where we need to go as a people. And that has been Luis's role all the time. I think because if you look at the history of his work too, from going to the work in the files and doing that kind of work in terms of agitprop, and it is that agitation, propaganda, y qué. You know, we're supposed to be doing art. That is art. Agitation, propaganda is art. It's an art practice. But he also moved on to do the theater of the sphere. And I have had the occasion of having Kinan, his son, come to my classes at Stanford and teach some workshops on theater of the sphere. And I really do it for me, you know, so I can get to do those things, you know, play the jaguar y toda la cosa. But there's Jaguar fans over there. But the thing is that what I know there too is that so going from that kind of what people understand sort of as like what is kind of material struggle to then spiritual issues, he never saw a contradiction in that, because there is no contradiction. You know, that we are Marxists, you know, and we are spiritual people, mystics, all of it all at once. And in the theater of the sphere, you see what it is to re-embody the indigenous body. And he was talking about this stuff in that teatro and el Teatro Campesino as a colectiva. We're talking about these ideas with Mexicanos, in those intercambios with Mexicanos, long before now we think we invented it, you know? People need to know their history so they don't have to keep starting from scratch. Start from zero, not scratch, and he'll tell you about that. Zero, not scratch. The other thing I want to say, too, is that his work, for me, there's two things. There was a sense always that when I was writing, there was once, after I wrote Heroes and Saints, there was an article that was called Shadowing Valdez. And it sounded like that to me. And I didn't know if that was a good thing or not a good thing for him or me, you know. But the thing is that they were talking about Heroes and Saints because my Heroes and Saints had a head. And I've always acknowledged that that head came from the shrunken head of Pancho Villa. And there's many of my works, if you look at those works, I'm having a conversation with Luis. It's just a conversation. It may have been a one-sided one. But it was really a conversation because I saw him and I see him as a member of my pueblo. The beauty of being Chicano is we still really believe we're a pueblo. Really a pueblo. And so it matters to me what he does. And it matters to me what I do in response to what he does, as I feel as about a handful of really significant Chicana artists in my life. It matters to me what they do. I want them to do well. And I sometimes disagree. And in my history of watching Luis's work, I'm going to put that woman right in the center. You see where that man is? I'm going to put a woman right there in the center. Right? And I thank Luis for that. Thank you. Agitation, propaganda. Agitation. I was pissed off. They were not true portraits of who we were. They were not, and I knew it. But it's my work right now. It's not my own. I'm not saying my. The my is a we, of course, you know that, right? I'm just trying to keep it intimate. So there was, you know, and I look at, I'll never forget Bernabé. I'm like, who is this man? This man at the end of it, the guy, he's the local, he's a mentally disabled figure, Bernabé. He's a visionary, and he wants to go home, and he digs a hole in the earth and returns to the earth, La Madre. And I go, if that's not feminist, I don't know what is. But it gets skewed. There's all this heterosexual stuff in it. Not just heterosexual, but heterosexist stuff in it. I didn't care. I want to talk to Bernabé in that hole. Because it's true. So when we are writers and thinkers, and I say this for all you young people, and you're writers and thinkers, our project is to continue to grow and move. And so what you're doing, you're in conversation. Your work should be in conversation. Everything, your political work, your artistic work, how you make family, has to be in conversation with your elders. And I don't consider Luis my elder. I consider him, I say that like in a way of like, I consider him my older brother. And I say that because he's not that old, for one thing. And the other thing is because I need an older brother. I have one. But I need one I can be in conversation with. And I honor Luis for that, even if it was a one-way conversation. The last thing I know, and I have no idea about time, so I know how much time I'm supposed to use, but I have no much time how much I've used. So I want to say a couple of things, other things I wanted to say. It was a long time, not too long ago, a couple of years ago, I had a conversation with David Carrasco, and my partner Zellerbach Rodriguez and I went to do some work in Harvard, and we also spent some time with him. He's a Mesoamerican scholar at Harvard. And we spent some time with him in the preparation for our play New Fire. We spent some time with him at Templo Mayor. And I remember at one point he was talking, and he had said that he had always thought as a young man when he began his studies, at the same time Luis was beginning his studies around Mesoamerican thought, that he kind of naively thought, well, oh man, 20 years, this is going to be the American philosophy. This is going to be the American, this is like, when they talk about jazz being, the classic American music form, he was saying that he felt like Mesoamerican thought, philosophy, worldview, because it's indigenous to the Americas, would then become integrated into the university system, and people would study it as American philosophy. And he said, then 20 years later, 30, I was shocked it never happened, right? And that really struck me because I see Luis as that. I have always seen him as a philosopher. I have always seen him as having that kind of soul, a public intellectual, but we get confused because he's not writing academic books. And we imagine because he's not writing academic books that he has nothing to teach us. Just have a conversation with him. But more than that, you'll find embedded in the work all the philosophies you need to know. So this man who I feel like has a kind of heart of wisdom is a person I am going to pass over to you right now. You don't have to hear any more from me. Pass him over to you, but I do want to say one thing, is that there is a way in, I have to find that one note of that last thing I was going to say. Oh, yes. I was just talking about this earlier, that when I understood the concept of zero, looking at Miguel Portillo and reading those things, and he talked about that zero was completeness. And it struck me that sense of wholeness is also what we also understand as a very integrated worldview, integral. And in knowing that too, and after many years of sort of faking, trying to sit in meditation and reading Buddhist texts, etc. And I say faking because I'm so bad at it. But in that, one thing, in one of the readings, the reading that most touched me was the one by Suzuki, Zen Mind, Beginner Mind, that says, in order to learn anything, you have to be empty. And I thought, empty, zero, whole. So I really want to thank you, Luis, for helping me in my work to be whole and for being my teacher. And I pass this microphone on to you.
Thank you, Cherríe. You make us all whole, and you have been a teacher for me as well. Thank you so much, hermana. You know, it wasn't until I turned 40 that I realized that I was also a woman. And we're both male and female. And when we speak the truth, we sound the echoes of Ometeot, to God. Ome tu Teot, the Creator. The Creator is both male and female, and that's really important. So it's an honor for me to be introduced by Cherríe, and I respect and honor your work as well, as a playwright, as an hermana, as an activist, as a feminist. There is a lot to be said, and not enough time. I remember vividly something that Cesar Chavez shared with us, actually a couple of precepts, in light of our 50th anniversary of El Teatro Campesino, which we're here to celebrate with you this evening, the coming 50th anniversary, 2015. He always said, hay más tiempo que vida. There is more time than life. And then the other corollary is, los pobres no tienen dinero, pero tienen tiempo. The poor have no money, but they have time. And that always seemed to me these are very wise concepts coming from another Chicano who only went to the 8th grade and became the figurehead, the symbol of the Latino in the United States, through his nonviolence, through his humility, through his struggle. He died way before he should have. His father lived to be 101. His mother lived to be 99. He died at 66. He wore out, basically. He would never admit it, but I saw him over the years, and I saw him age precipitously. And I was concerned, like all of us that worked with him, that he was fasting too much and he wasn't taking care of himself because we needed him. But he had to do what he had to do, and he wore out. But he left us some very important concepts. Hay más tiempo que vida is one of them. Los pobres no tienen dinero, pero tienen tiempo. And that speaks to the generations. That speaks now to time. And being an Indio, Cesar inherited the genius of our pre-Columbian ancestors, which has always motivated me. I have learned over a lifetime that even though I started long ago, born in a labor camp in Delano, California, and was very quickly, indirectly and directly told that I was a Mexican, that I was no good, that I was worthless, I learned that no, actually, that's not the truth. The truth is that I'm a human being like everyone else, and that I have a legacy and I have a culture, and that I'm American. I'm a continental American. I have a root that goes into this continent that's 10,000 years deep, and only through the lies and distortions of people that would oppress us have I been led to believe that I'm something less than what I am, and that we are all something less than what we are. Because being an American, I can share this with all my other Americans, Americanos, you that call yourself Chicanos or Latinos, or it doesn't matter to me whether you call yourself Hispanic or Anglo or African American or Asian. We are here in America, and there is a culture that existed here that resonates with the whole of humanity. And it is to this theme that I want to dedicate some comments this evening. The power of zero. The power of zero is the power of all human beings. It stems from the Mayan concept of the human being as a huiniquil, as a vibrant being attached to the universe. And in our work with El Teatro Campesino for 50 years, as Cherríe has said, we began with a very humble root, but that's neither here nor there. The wealth and the power and the beauty of pre-Columbian thought was there in the people. And so over the 50 years, we've been digging and extracting these treasures that I now, in part, want to share with you. It has to do with zero as a spiral. Zero, as we know it, is a circle. It's drawn on blackboards. We live in an age now that is manipulating zeros and ones. This is the digital age. It's become a very Mayan age. This is the time of the Mayan. This is the time of rebirth. Since December 21st, 2012, we crossed the border from the last quinto sol into the sexto sol. We are now in the sexto sol. I'm speaking to you now from the sixth sun. And this is a university that prides itself in its expertise, its Nobel Prize winners in the sciences and in mathematics. I'm here to say that the sciences and the mathematics at Berkeley and all the major universities of the Americas has to catch up. I was a math major. I was a math and physics major, straight A. I say that because I don't look like a math and physics major. In any case, like I mentioned to you, I was born in a labor camp, not knowing what I was. But I did not know, for instance, what my America was. Many of the comments many of the words that I'm going to be using here are Nahuatl. They're Aztec or Mayan. And you need to know something about the Nahuatl. Nahuatl means four waters. Nahui is four. Atl is water. Four waters. And the origins of Nahuatl are kind of mysterious. Chicano scholars have proposed that maybe the word has something to do with an area up in the Four Corners region between Utah and Colorado and Arizona and New Mexico. And there are four rivers that converge. And that maybe this is the point of origin of the Nahuatl-speaking peoples, the Aztecs, the mythical Aztlan, who knows? But we do know that the language Nahuatl, which is Aztec, the Spanish called them Aztecs, but they weren't Aztecs, they were Nahuatl peoples. And the Nahuatl-speaking peoples are part of the Ute Shoshone language family. It means all the Utes, the Indians, the Native Americans that lived in Utah, it was named after them, with the Shoshone, speak the same language that the Aztecs spoke in Mexico. It's one language base, and it stretches all the way from the Four Corners, all the way down into Central America to a place called Nicam Nahuatl. Nicam Nahuatl, Nicam is a word in Nahuatl, which means to hear. So it means, Nicam Nahuatl means Nahuatl spoken to hear. When the Spanish came and they heard the Aztecs, referring to the Native Americans, referring to Nicam Nahuatl, they reinterpreted it and pronounced it Nicaragua. So all the way from Utah, the Four Corners regions, down to Nicaragua, there was one common language base. This is America. America for 10,000 years, speaking the same language. And so now we, barrio Chicano speak, me duele la chompeta, carnal, And we're saying chompa. Chompa is Maya, it's Aztec, it's Nahuatl. La chompeta, chompa. And we don't know sometimes when we're speaking slang in the barrio that we're speaking the ancient languages. And we know that with this goes a certain knowledge, goes a certain concept. The concept of zero does not float in empty space. The concept of zero is embedded into our very lives. We embody, we represent zero. Zero, hel, lib, lub. Those are words for zero in Maya and in Maya Yucateco, Quiche Maya, and also Nahuatl. Hel, lib. And so, what is this concept of zero then? We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of El Teatro Campesino. But that's according to the solar calendar. 50 years since 1965 until 2015 seems appropriate. Decade to decade, okay, we're going to celebrate the decades. But you know, for our ancient ancestors, it was not enough to have one calendar. It was not enough to have a solar calendar. That was great to measure the planets and to measure the path of our solar system through a spiral galaxy. Talk about the power of zero. That spiral galaxy is the big zero that we all live in, because zero is not emptiness, it's a spiral. It's a spiral. And so when we set out to celebrate our 50th anniversary, we suddenly realized, you know, it's not enough just to celebrate it according to the solar calendar. We have to celebrate it like our ancestors did, with a sacred calendar, which is 260 days. The sacred calendar. You know the Aztec calendar that they sell in all the curio shops? You've seen it. You go to Tijuana, you know, you've been to Mexico, you come back, oh, it's nice, I'll put it on the wall. We turned it into a puppet. Actually, I put my face into the middle of it, you know. But actually, that's the sacred calendar. That's not the solar calendar. That's the 260-day calendar. The 260 days translates roughly into 9 months. So it has something to do with the period of gestation in the mother's womb. It is a measure of our humanity. It is a measure of our lifetime. Like Cesar said, hay más tiempo que vida. There is a calendar that measures tiempo, solar time, and there is a calendar that measures vida, and that's the sacred calendar. And those two calendars hook up. Our Mayan ancestors knew that these two calendars ratchet together. The little 260-day calendar ratchets with the 365-day calendar, and they coincide in terms of their units, in terms of their symbols, every 52 years. And so, El Teatro Campesino is celebrating its 50th anniversary, but we're going to celebrate it for 2 years. 52 years. And so that's why, again, we're celebrating our ancestors. Okay, so what is this zero then? What is zero? What is zero? I want you to imagine a circle. A pure zero circle. This is the power of the feminine. It's continuity, it's a matrix, but it's a spiral. It doesn't completely lock, it spirals. And then within it, imagine a square. That's the male part, okay? This is a symbol of Hunabku, the square inside the circle, as the Mayans called him, Hunabku. This is the creator. El único dador de la medida y el movimiento, the only giver of the measure and the movement. The movement is circular. The movement is spiral. The measure is square. The measure is square. And each of those lines represents 5, so it comes to 20. Each side of the square, a line, the dot and line mathematics of the Mayans, 5, 5, 5, 20. So the sacred calendar is composed of 20 steps. 20 steps, 20 pasos, los 20 pasos de Dios. The 20 footprints of the Creator. Not to say God. I'm a little queasy about using words like God, you know. I hate it when you hear ministers saying, I was speaking to God last night. God was talking to me. Really? The guy that runs the galaxy that he's talking to, okay. It's not quite that easy. I think the whole concept of the Creator is so overwhelming, it blows your mind. It totally just blows you away. And we need interpreters. We need people like the Christ, and we need people like Buddha to come along. And the wonderful thing about Christ, and I'm Christian, I'm really Buddhist, basically. I'm a pre-Columbian religious guy. You know, we talk about religions, there's religious wars happening on our planet. The Muslims can't get a break. You know, from the Christian Judaic tradition, they can't get a break. Okay, Muhammad can't get a break. And they're being accused of all kinds of atrocities that the Christians committed a long time ago. The Jews too, they were very warlike. Everybody was warlike. And it's happening right now on TV. You can see it every night. There it is. It's in Syria. It's ISIS. That's nothing new. It's old. It's old. But in spite of the fact that there's these religious wars between Christianity, Judaism, and Muslim and the Islam, where are the pre-Columbian religions? We're not allowed to celebrate Quetzalcoatl. We're not allowed to celebrate Tezcatlipoca. We're not allowed to celebrate Tonantzin unless we disguise her as La Virgen de Guadalupe, and which we have for centuries now. We're not allowed to celebrate Ixchel, the fertility goddess of the Mayas. So that has been criminalized for 500 years now. And don't you any brown people start saying, lighting candles to something that isn't European, And but the way that we can resurrect this is by looking at how practical it was, how basic it was. It was a lie that there was all this human sacrifice happening. There was some, but that was all over the world. But it was a lie to draw us away from the truth of our pre-Columbian, of our American ancestors, which we share with all Americans. You're in America. So this is some of the root. And we have discovered then that the 20 Pasos in our work with the Teatro break down into 4 columns of 5 dates each. The sacred calendar was composed of 20 days, 13 months of 20 days each, okay, for 260 days, which amounts to 9 months. So the 20 days were Imish Ikakwal Kanchik Chankimi Manik Lamat Muruk Okchuen Eben Ishmen Kib Kaman Islam Kowakahau. Okay? The first 5. Imish Ikakwal Kanchik Chan. We teach that. That's the body. The second is the heart. Body, heart. Kimi Manik Lamat Muruk Ok. Then Ok Chuen Eben Ishmen. That's the mind. Kib Kaban Isnab Kawak Ahau, that's the 5th column, which I call the spirit, which I call the vibration. And I'm going to cover those in a minute. 4 columns. In classical Western civilization at the time of Aristotle, we talked about logos, pathos, ethos, and then Carl Jung added eros in terms of the body. And we're kind of becoming more acquainted with our sexuality. We're ready to admit, we love all different kinds of people. We're erotic. As human beings. It's part of our nature. We wouldn't survive if we weren't erotic. But I didn't have to go to college to learn that the body was important. I was a farm worker. I was born in a farm labor camp. And back in 1941, I was almost a year old. We were back on the migrant path. But the first year, my mom got pregnant, she gave me birth. We didn't go on the road that year. So then a year later, we're back. We came from Delano all the way to San Martin. You know where San Martin is, over by Gilroy? Garlic capital of the world, okay? Well, San Martin, we're living in a grower's barn. We're Mexican farm workers. And he took the horses out, put the Mexicans in. That's about right, And so there we were, and I had some tias and tios and primos, and they were all getting ready to go to work in the morning and cooking. And, we had a portable stove, which was basically a tin tub, una tina, with a hole cut in the side. And my mom and my tias would put leña inside, and that's how they would cook. The bottom of the tin became our griddle. And so they would heat the tortillas and cook the frijoles. And one morning, we're out there busy going to work, al jale, mano, la chamba, And my aunt had a little cousin of mine, a little older than me. She could walk already. And my aunt used to prepare her bottle con leche, lechaba, parinos al fil, to go to the fields. I was breastfed, so my lunch was portable, with my mom, But one morning, in un momento de descuido, a real careless moment, they didn't notice my aunt had a little pan of water heating up to heat the bottle, and my tia and my mom were getting ready to go to work, and I'm crawling along beside the stove, and then my little cousin comes and grabs the handle of the water pan, pulled on it, tipped it over, and it fell on my back. And I screamed and passed out. I have no memory of this. I was told this. My dad came running. They saw me. They saw that I had been burned, scalded, and they wrapped me up in a blanket, took me to the nearest hospital, which was in Gilroy. It was called Wheeler Hospital. It was a white hospital. This is 1941, just before World War II began. And here we are, Mexican farm workers. They bring in this child, severely burned. They opened the blanket, and all the skin on my back sloughed off, and part of my face. My mother said, mijito, te estabas muriendo. She used to tell me the story over and over. You were dying. And so, today I'd be in the ICU. I've been in an intensive care unit. I mean, I was severely burned. I had no skin on my back. But it's 1941, so what happens is that the nurses put some kind of salve on my back, and they released me into my mother's care to go back to the horse barn. I could have gotten an infection, But again, miracles being miracles, what happened is that my mother was 20 years old. She was deathly afraid I was going to die. She just lost a brother before I was born. So for the next 6 months, I slept on her stomach, heart to heart, corazón con corazón. And my back then healed. I was only 1 year old, so there's no scars. I was a little sensitive about hot water for many, many years. Now I love it, But the thing is that from heart to heart, I think what that did is se me echó la pompa a andar, as we say in Spanish. It really turned my pump on. I mean my heart. And also the water hit me right in the back. It hit me right in the spine, at the base of the back, right here. Aquí. And I didn't know then, I was only 1 year old, that this is the U joint. This is what motivates you. This connects to your solar plexus. This is the key to movement. This is the key. And it's also the key to the Mayan Zero of your body. As I say, it's a spiral. Es un huracán. You want to see zero? Sin vergüenza, right? Okay. But none of us would be here without this, ¿me entiendes? But not only that, this is what allows you to walk. This is what makes you mobile. This is what gives you the ability to move. And I call it the huracán. We have it, when we do the exercises, the Vibrant Being Workshop, we have what we call the litany of the ball. We use a ball. But the thing is that this is the huracán. The jaguars, las águilas, okay? But this is the jaguar, okay? This is the huracán. And this is the spiral in action. But when you begin to see what your body can do, you begin to realize that I am the embodiment of the Mayan Zero. I am made up of spirals. Everything that I do is the embodiment of a spiral. And I can be an athlete, and what I'm doing is activating the spiral. I can be a hula dancer, and I'm activating the spiral. We use it. The guys flex. What they're using is the spiral, the huracán, in order to represent their strength. Women are put into positions to be real sexy. It's the huracán. The huracán, the spiral, is the come hither part. It is the power of procreation that is embodied in your very body, your being. The spirit is not divorced from your body. The Christian mystics, I'm afraid, were in error. But our Mayan ancestors knew that our bodies were the very embodiment of spiritual power and thought, of the zero. And so whether you do yoga, if you do yoga, you're just activating the zero in your body. If you do Hawaiian dance, modern dance, ballet, if you're an actor, if you're an athlete, if you're a warrior, the way you power is by discovering the zero in your body. And it is a question of activating your spine. Activate your spine. We take the little kids when we work with them, and we say, activate the spine. Activate the spine. Now, I'll tell you, where did I learn this? In the fields. En el campo, mano. En la chamba. En la chinga. In the fields. How do you do the short hoe if you don't activate your spine? See what I'm saying? And those people then that came along into the world and looked at the native cultures, and they say, well, Africans move their hips a lot, And so, they must be oversexed. And these Indians, get around and do stuff. There must be something wrong. But it is the joy of using the zero that is inherent in your body that frees you to be able to relate to the movement of the planets and the stars, which is why the Indio dances his way to truth in ways that we don't understand. I wrote this quite a while ago, but any culture will move in their own special way, because this is universal. It's not just Chicano, it's just not Indio, it's human. It's human. It is the vibrant being in action. We're a lot. We're not hunks of meat. We're not pieces of meat. We're vibrant beings. We're more like radio stations. We're more like vibrating radio stations. It's no coincidence that now that we have entered the computer age, suddenly we're entering a whole neural network that we don't completely understand, that we can flash on the internet before we even realize what we've said. Because there's something about the electronic qualities of the digital age and the computer that connects with the neural pathways of our brain and allows us to extend ourselves into this digital world. Our Mayan ancestors knew this. They knew this. We're into the age of telecommunications. Tele. They tell us it's Greek. It means distance in Greek. Did you know that tele is also Maya Yucateco? Only they go one step further than the Greeks. They break it down into its two basic root words. Te, which means tree, and le, which means leaf. And so as a tree falls from the leaf, hits the wind, and goes into the distance, it becomes then the word for distance in Maya Yucateco. And they used to say, if you are isolated and in trouble, or you have woes that you have to deal with, tell a tree. The trees are phone booths. The trees all around us are what sustain not just our lungs, but also our psychic and neural existence. Trees are embodiments of the spiral. Trees are embodiments of the Creator. And all of the symbolism that has arisen in the world's religions have incorporated the tree. The Christ on his cross, nailed to a tree, nailed to the four directions. Now we Olin, four movement. No wonder the Aztecs looked at this when the Christians came and said, whoa, look at him. Hey, I know that guy. Yo lo conozco, But we've been lied a little bit about Christ and what he was. They call him a carpenter. But yeah, he might have been a carpenter. But the Bible really says that he worked with his hands. He was a manual laborer. Christ was a ditch digger. That's why I'm Christian. That's why we do the pastorela. I love the fact he was born in a cave in a barn. Seems right to me. And I don't know if you know the story of Nanahuatzin. It's one of the Aztec gods that led to the creation of the sun. Nanahuatzin was one of the ugly early gods, before the sun and the moon existed. He had pus all over his face, just kind of ugly and miserable. And then there was some beautiful gods, And so when it came time, the grandfather and the grandmother said, we've got to create the sun and the moon. We need someone to sacrifice themselves. And Nanahuatzin came forward and said, aquí mero, And the other gods laughed at him. You're going to be the sun? Forget it, And one of the beautiful ones stepped forward and says, I'll be the sun. That's me. And so then they had to sacrifice themselves. So Nanahuatzin and this other god got on top of a precipice and they had to leap into a fire. The beautiful god was going to take the leap, but he hesitated, and Nanahuatzin jumped. And then the pretty god jumped after him. So Nanahuatzin rose out of the flames and became the sun. And the pretty god became the moon to reflect the light of Nanahuatzin. Humility. Christ never had a university degree. Cesar Chavez never got past the 8th grade. And so when I returned to work with the union, I went to learn. I did not go to teach. I had a university education. It's a little embarrassing, actually. I had to admit that I've been to college. Because I wanted to reconnect with the campesinos. I want to learn from them. And so through my contact with it, I said, hey, teach me. And the fact is that I was already motivated. When I was 6 years old, I got inspired by an experience that a lot of people share. A lot of us get turned on to the theater when we're first graders. That's happened to me. It was 1946. We were on a migrant path. We had just been to the Garden of Eden, the Santa Clara Valley. And so, like every year, we went back to the San Joaquin Valley to pick cotton in the fall of 1946 to a place called Corcoran. You may not know Corcoran. Anybody from Corcoran here? Yeah, Corcoran, hey! That day. Okay. Now there's a big prison in Corcoran. Charlie Manson resides there. I hear he's going to get married. Charlie Manson. Robert Downey Jr. was a guest there recently. And Juan Corona, who killed some farm workers, lives there, you know. But the thing is that in 1946, there was no prison. They hadn't yet discovered how to make prisons a cottage industry. You know, once they make prisons part of a business, then it profits, literally profits people to incarcerate Latinos and African Americans. And that's what's happening in this state. And not just this state, but also in Arizona. You know, we have an overflow here. We send them to Arizona. They're quite willing to do it. And the thing is that's so off the wall. That's so contrary to what it should be. It's not justice. That's exploitation. That's a way to get cheap labor. But anyway, that wasn't the case in 1946. Corcoran was king cotton. It was a lot of cotton camps. And so we ended up in this cotton camp with 2,000 people, Army surplus tents. It was beautiful, you know, a lot of work. So many people, you know, in those days, it wasn't just Mexicans in the fields. We had African Americans, we had Asians, we had Japanese Americans, we had Chinese out there picking cotton. We had Okies from Oklahoma, from the Dust Bowl. We had African Americans from the South. We had Sikhs from India. I thought the whole world, well, they're all cotton pickers. I'm a cotton picker like everybody else, you know, Kiswawi, you know. But the fact is that I mean, there were so many people that the cotton season was over in a month. It was nothing. It didn't last too long. First picking, second picking. This is before the machines came in. So all those camps, the tents started to come down, and we couldn't move on because my dad's truck, his pickup truck, had broken down. He had it up on blocks. He was trying to fix it. And like a lot of farm workers, we lived hand to mouth, you know, just to survive. And so we survived by tacos, you know, my mom made proud tortillas, you know, and we were fishing in the San Joaquin River. We were eating fish tacos before they were trendy. Pescado, man, taco de pescado, you know. So one morning, early in the morning, we used to go out fishing. I almost drowned. I was, again, 6 years old, and my mom got really concerned, so she told me and my older brother, you better go to school. And so there's a yellow bus that used to come into the camp, and we climbed on and went to a school nearby Stratford, a little town called Stratford. Not Stratford on the Avon, Stratford on San Joaquin, okay? That was the difference. And so I had my mother's lunch, you know, a little brown paper bag that she commandeered at the camp store. It was really, in 1946, there were still paper shortages from World War II. You know, a little brown paper bag was a rarity, I'm gonna tell you. I didn't want to take it in a big, you know, big bag or a C&H sugar sack. It was a little brown paper, my size. I don't know where my mother got it, but I loved it, man. And she used to put these tacos, you know, flour tortillas de harina, you know, with eggs. Sometimes she'd have eggs, frijoles, you know, papas a huevo, you know. she'd wrap them up and then put them in. You know, there's nothing like Mama's tacos. On a cold morning, man, in a little bag under my little jacket, la chamarra, you know, going to school, and I'd feel the warmth of these tacos, and I'd feel my mother's warmth. I said, this is great, you know. And so I put it in the closet, and then at lunch, pull them out and go. And there's where I discovered my first disillusionment, man. I saw that the other kids had lunch pails. And they're these metal lunch pails, you know, with Hopalong Cassidy emblazoned on the side, or Mickey Mouse, you know. And then they'd open them up, and I was looking, Jesus, what are they eating, you know? And they pulled out these 2 pieces of white board wrapped in plastic. No. It's white bread, you know. I wasn't used to eating white bread, you know. So, and then these sandwiches were productions. I mean, they had bologna, you know, they had cheese, they had lettuce and tomate, you know what I mean? It was amazing. It was amazing what they pulled out. And then on top of that, they had like an apple or an orange or a cupcake. Y para acabarla de fregar, you know, the kicker was that they pulled out a thermos. And then they'd undo the top and pour it out. There's milk or even Coca-Cola. And man, I looked at this and I looked at my little saco and they look sad, you know what I mean? Oh, man. Me daba vergüenza, mano. I said, oh, man, me da vergüenza. And so, you know how tortillas are, pretty flour tortillas, you know, they're nice and fluffy and warm when they're warm, but as they get colder, se miran medio chateados, you know what I mean? They kind of look shriveled, you know, kind of. And so my shame even grew, you know. So I'd eat my tacos the way that a wino drinks his wino, you know. It's wine, one bite at a time. You know, I pull it out, you know, out in the corner, you know. And the Anglo kids would look at my lunch. What are you eating? Oh, no. You know, come on, show us. No, está bien, you know. And this went on for about a week. I kept looking at their lunches, you know, and they're looking at my tacos, and I kept looking at their lunches. And one day, the miracle happened. We exchanged lunches. And the rest is Taco Bell history, you know? Well, you know, my bag, I used to take care of my bag. I put it in the closet, and then at the end of the day, I'd go get it and take it back to my mom, right? Well, one day, it's gone, and I'm looking for it, and the bus is starting to leave. The teacher sees me running around and says, what are you looking for? I told her, oh, a little brown paper. I took it. I said, well, give it back. and she says, I can't. And she escorted me back to her little room in the back behind her desk, and there was my bag all ripped up, floating in a basin of water. And I said, cabrón. La maestra went crazy. She went berserk, you know. She ripped up my bag, and she said, no, wait a minute. And she reached in, grabbed a piece of the bag, dipped it into some white paste, and then put it on a mold. It was a clay, and it was a monkey. A monkey. And then she put another piece and smoothed it out, another piece, smoothed it out. Said, you want to try it? I took the little bag, smoothed it out. And at that moment, I discovered one of the secrets of the universe, paper mache. Now, it's November. By this time, I realized, wait a minute. What's this for? It can't be for Halloween. Halloween is gone. You know, she says, it's for a play. And the whole school is involved. It's called Christmas in the Jungle. And next week, we're going to have auditions. We need 2 first graders to play monkeys. So I forgave her about the bag, you know. And the next week, next Monday, I was there, and I auditioned, and I got my first role in the theater, man. You know, I was good. I made a good chango, man, because, you know. A good changuito, you know? And so as I got cast, and as time went by, I got a costume that was better than my own clothes, I'm telling you. I had a green vest, some red pantalones, you know? I had some red shoes, curly tops, you know, the curly toes. I had a tail, you know? And that little hat, you know? A little hat. And I was in heaven, man. And then the mask, that was the topper. The mask made from Mama's taco bag, you know, which the teacher had made. It was brilliant, you know, and man, I felt transformed, you know. And so I was looking forward. I saw the old school auditorium being transformed, the fake trees, a jungle, the school band was piping up. This was gonna be my debut before the world, you know. My mom was gonna see me, my cousins were gonna see me. It was great. It was on a Friday, you know, but my big debut. I came home on a Tuesday or so, and I told my mom, and my mom said, we're leaving tomorrow. And I said, but Mom, the play's on Friday. And she says, I know, but we're being evicted. And I said, and I started to cry, and she cried with me, but that was it. The next morning at dawn, my dad got the truck started in some way and pulled out. We pulled out of the camp, went through the town of Stratford, where the school was, and I'll never forget seeing this town recede into the valley fog and feeling a hole open up in my chest. This could have destroyed me. This could have really done me in, as it does some kids. But I had with me the secret of paper mache, the desire to do theater, and also residual anger because we had been evicted from the labor camp. Okay? Almost 20 years later, I went to Cesar Chavez and pitched him an idea for a theater of, by, and for farm workers. You know, and some years ago, a couple years ago, I was talking to a conference of superintendents from California in Monterey, and the new superintendent of that school district was still there. He came and he took my story, so he went back and checked the rolls. And yep, he handed me a photostatic copy of the attendance record for first grade, 1946, Stratford School. And there at the bottom is the name of Louis Valdez. The kid was there for 30 days in that school, in and out. And at the top was the name of my teacher that I had never remembered, Ruth Tremaine. I don't know where Ruth Tremaine is today. If she's alive, she must be about 125 years old, you know. God bless her, because whether she knew it or not, she launched me. She launched me into my career, because for the last almost 70 years, I've been pouring plays and stories into that hole. It became the hungry mouth of my creativity. A negative became a positive. The hungry mouth of my creativity became my big zero. Now, if you're into math, how do you get from negative into positive? You have to go through zero. You have to go through zero. The power of zero is the power to graduate. The Mayans identified it with the power of birth and rebirth, that you graduate. Take a 1, put a 0 next to it. This looks like 1/100, 10. Put another 0, 100, another 0, 1,000, and so forth, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million. The 0 multiplies and increases the 1 indefinitely. It just keeps going. In the other direction, the infinitesimal. It's the power of graduation, the power to go from negative to positive or from positive to negative. It's up to you. It depends on but it's that spiral. Our lives spiral. Our lives completely spiral. But it is important that if we understand the 4 columns, we understand the body as eros, not in a sexual sense, just in a physical sense. The spiral, then we understand that the heart is about pathos. You know, back in the times of Aristotle, it said pathos, ethos, logos. They used to talk about these building blocks. Those 4 building blocks are still there. They're in the Mayan culture. They're in the sacred calendar. Eros, pathos, logos, ethos. So if you go into pathos, develop a heart, man. Develop a heart. ¿Dónde es tu corazón? You got to have a car. And what is the key, the core of the corazón? It's core. The core, the apple core is a heart. Core, cora, corazón. The Mayans called it, the Aztecs called it yolot. And yolot had within it olin, which is movement. Cherríe mentioned movement. Movement is in your heart. So long as your heart continues to pump and move, you're connected to the universe. And that movement is always pumping. It's what keeps you alive. It's what keeps you moving. And that's why you have to have contact with your heart. Pathos. Develop empathy. Empathy. That's part of your education. To become empathic of your fellow human beings. Learn to sense what other people are going through. Sense to sense. It's not to be so Olympian and so brilliant that you lose contact with humanity. On the contrary, go in. And out of that comes respeto. My mother used to say, si no tienes respeto, eres mal educado. If you have no respect, you're badly educated. The first purpose, then, of to becoming educated is to respect other human beings. El respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz, as Benito Juárez used to say. That comes from an old saying, in lac ech. In lac ech is a Mayan precept that we practice. That's the pathos. In lac ech means you are my other me. If I love and respect you, I love and respect myself. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. That's a tough one. Because we see people as others, but they're not. They're us. You are me, and I am you, and I am my community. You know, we fear death. Among the emotional, pathetic realities of our life is that we're all mortal, and we're all going to die someday. Death is harder if you only think of yourself. If you serve your community, if your life has been of some worth, like my mother used to say, sirve de algo, you know, serve for something, serve other human beings, then you're part of a continuum, you're part of the river. The life was there before you were born, it will be there after you're gone, the river will continue. And so we serve. And there is no individual genius, there's collective genius. We are all geniuses. We are all connected to the massive collective. That's a hard one, because people say that's socialism, that's Marxism, blah, 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 you know? But it's truth, it's truth. And so when you get it, that's pathos. You get into logos, which is logic, which is knowledge, consciousness. The word there at the bottom, chuen eben ishmen, are their key words. Ok is the one for emotion, by the way, for pathos. It means dog. Dogs. And what are dogs? Puro corazón, man. That's why they bring dogs, for patients, The dog is just a loving, what does a dog know? Un perro, But the other part of men is the third column. And it's interesting, men, there is a Maya Yucateco word, but it's the same root of mental, mind, men. Isn't that curious? Men means creer, crear, hacer. To believe is to create, is to do. If you do something, it's because you believe something. If you create something, it's because you believe something. If you believe something, then you can create something. You can't just be an artist in a vacuum. You got to believe something. Okay, so that's the mind. That's the mind which you develop. You want to develop sophistication so that you can handle contradiction, paradox. The mind can go back and forth. One of the paradoxes that we who were born bilingual have is that we can code switch. We can code switch, muy pronto. Half a sentence in Spanish, la otra parte en español, They're learning that. Bilingual, wow, bilingual, the mind, boom, 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 boom. Trucha, carnal, órale, vámonos, Orale, calcos were the pachuco shoes. We had a pachuca here on stage. But calcos were the pachucos used to use, big. Because the pachucos were kickboxers, man. That was the fighting style. It wasn't just the fisticuffs. También con las patas, Chihuahua. It wasn't a knife so much. It was the four movement, right? This is a pachuco style. But they used to call their shoes calcos, and I always said, what a strange word, it's calo. And then I studied Greek drama, and I discovered that the katherna boot that they use in Greek tragedies were called kalkus. So maybe here's a pachuco term that comes from the ancient Greeks. So say, well, hijo, we're all connected, The last column is ethos. The fourth column, it's kimi manit lamat luk ok shuen eben ishmen kib kaban esrab kawakahau. That's the last column, and that deals with ethos. That's ethics. Ethics. We have an ethical responsibility. Conscience. Develop a social conscience. What's happening in Ayotzinapa today, in Mexico? The murder of 43 students who are going to be teachers. That's the opposite of ethics. It's totally unethical. The problem with Mexico is that it's corrupted to the core. It's been corrupted since the Spanish conquest. The indigenous were taught to betray their own people. There is no sense, really, of community, unity, cohesion in Mexico. There have been too many battles to try to create the nation, dating all the way back, all the way to the Aztecs, trying to create a sense of what this is, what country is it, what are we? And there are many ethical people in Mexico. I love Mexico. I love my people. I love the poor people. I love the rural areas and the city. I don't mind. I love Mexico City. But I find that there's too much corruption, too many vendidos, too much bribery, and that saddens me. It saddens me because it means that the revolution must come from within. Violence isn't going to do it. Go around, you kill the killers, you just end up killing more. There has to be a new generation. Part of that hope, really, it comes from you who live in the United States. You Latinos, you who can look at the rest of Latin America and say, you know what, we got to bring some ethics into play here. Part of it is that the imbalance of NAFTA, and what happened, with the politics of the United States, the corporate business that's done, they want to exploit the people of Mexico. That's been going on for centuries. After they took all the gold and the silver out, they want to take the gold in people. But that culture is tremendous. Right next to the United States, what other country could survive and maintain its profile, maintain its culture, maintain its identity? Mexico, because we are the root of America. We are America. This is what we have to share with the world. And when you look at it deeply enough, you find out, you know what? We're tremendously Asian. It isn't just the Pacific Rim. We have more than just a nodding acquaintance with Asian culture. We're an extension of Asian culture. That's where it came from. So we connect with ancient China and Japan and Korea. So we can connect with the Asians. We can connect with Europe because our Spanish ancestors brought that too. We connect with Africa because they brought more Africans to Latin America as slaves than they brought to the United States. And we are black too. And you know, without African American culture, there would be no Pachuco. The zoot suit was an invention of the African Americans. Swing music, jazz, that jazz is in us as well. We need to connect with our brothers. And also Europe. You know, hating gabachos does not make you a Chicano. You know, you got to understand where that word comes from. It was a word that they used in Spain to describe the French. You know? But we have a lot of French words. Que suave, mano. You know, that comes from the French soldiers, the Suaves, you know. Bolillos, that's another description for white people. That's a little baguette, you know, bolillo, you know. So we need to understand our own history. You know, we understand that we're supposed an embrace and a rejection. And that the raza, as we know it, is not a race, it's a melting pot. La raza is a melting pot, and everybody's welcome. As Paul Rodriguez says, we'll make love with anybody, you know? But the fact is that we are rooted in the history of this continent. And this is what we bring to the table. This is what we bring to the computer age. The power of zero. The power of zero to calculate, to invent, to create the universe with everybody else. We're not any better than anybody else, but we're just as good. We're just as brilliant. We're just as intelligent. And sitting here are some of the first Latino, Chicano Nobel Prize winners. I don't know who you are, but you're in there somewhere. Please identify yourself. Because I believe in you. I believe that you're there. And it has to be. It has to be that we share equal credit for the progress of civilization, but we can't do it without connecting with our bodies, without connecting with our heart, without connecting with our minds, without connecting with our ethical spirit. You have to believe in something bigger than yourself. That's the essence of the last column, the ethics. Believe in something bigger than you. The world does not end here. It goes on into other people. I want to conclude with a poem in 3 languages, in Nahuatl, in Spanish, and in English. A poem written by the Prince of Texcoco, Netzahualcoyotl, in 1482, before the coming of the Españoles. And it goes something like this. First in Nahuatl, language of the Aztecs. Tlein mash tikilna mikia kanma chinemyan mayolo iktimuyol sesenmana, a week patikwika timuyol popoloa, in tlaltikpa kanma chtitlal tiu. In Spanish. ¿Qué era lo que acaso tu mente hallaba? ¿Dónde andaba tu corazón? Por esto das tu corazón a cada cosa, sin rumbo lo llevas. Vas destrozando tu corazón. Sobre la tierra, ¿acaso puedes ir en pos de algo? And in English, what is it that your mind was looking for? Where is your heart? For this you give your heart to everything? You are destroying your heart. On this earth, do you suppose that you can ever go in search of anything and find it? America, find your heart. Thank you.
We have a token of appreciation, a gift that we want to give you. So the Teatro students are going to come and bring it out. And then, yeah, can we have a little bit more light? And it's signed by all of us, and we want to give you so many more gifts for this gift you've given us. Thank you.
Oh, I love it. I love the... I loved this poster when I saw the design, and they tell me that it's based on a photograph taken in Cuba. In 2010, I was invited to come speak at the Casa de las Americas in Havana. And that, of course, is one of their institutions. And I spoke on a stage there in the Casa de las Americas where Che Guevara spoke, Victor Jara gave one of his last concerts. Many, many great human beings. Haiti Santa Maria was the creator of, she was a revolutionary with Fidel in the mountains. She was one of the creators of Casa de las Americas. And what they have kept alive there is the spirit of America. And they are interested in Latinos in the United States. They say they're very interested in what is happening in America. Because one of these days, there's going to be justice. There's continental. And Cuba will be able to share its richnesses with the rest of the world. Thank you so much.